Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first panel discussion of the Future of Work conference, where we have a fantastic panel to explore how we might reimagine the workplace. The panel will look back over the last 6 or so months and reflect on what we are learning. We'll take a closer look at the challenges of a hybrid working model, as well as how to take good care of our employees when many are working remotely or on the first line. I want to warmly welcome our panel here today. It's a panel that brings together 3 incredibly experienced and knowledgeable leaders from the worlds of consumer packaged goods, global finance, and digital workplace experience. Welcome to Gorana Sandridge, the Group Talent Development Head with the Coca-Cola Bottling Company, Tariq Mona, the Digital Product Lead with Legal & General, another iconic brand, and Elaine Murphy, Senior Vice President with LiveTiles, the world's leading digital workplace technology company. We're going to start this morning by inviting each panelist to briefly introduce themselves, their role, and a few words about the organizations they're working for. Gorana, if I may start with you.
Thank you very much, Paul. So I'm very pleased to be here today with you, and thank you all for participating. I work for Coca-Cola Hellenic. We have the bottler for Central Eastern Europe, including Ireland and Nigeria. And my role is heading the talent development area, responsible for talent reviews and the different talent programs. I hand over.
Thank you very much. Tariq, if I can go to you.
Yes, hi, thanks Paul. Thanks for inviting me to the panel. I'm Tariq, I'm the Digital Product Lead at Legal & General, one of the largest global financial services organizations focusing on a variety of financial services products, but also in the homes building space as well. And we do a lot in construction as well, which a lot of people don't know about us. What we do is that our USP almost is that we take all of the capital from our financial products and we invest it back into society. That's what a concept that we call inclusive capitalism. So we're actually building cities of the future, from whether it's campuses, new office spaces, or even climate change initiatives, as well as electric charge points and future infrastructure. So, you know, it's a circular economy for us.
Good stuff, very purpose-driven. So, Elaine, if I can, if you introduce yourself, please.
Morning, Paul. Thank you for the invite to be on the panel today. It's a pleasure to chat about this particular subject. It's a passion play of mine, and great to be on the panel with Gorana and Tariq today. I'm from LiveTiles. My name is Elaine Murphy, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Operations for the EMEA region. And LiveTiles is really about the intelligent workplace. You know, everybody's probably heard about the internet, which is obviously quite relevant in today's world, but we talk more about the intelligent internet, and then a step up from there, the intelligent workplace. So we've got a suite of intelligent technologies that understand and proactively engage with employees based on data, known user behaviors, and workplace patterns.
Good stuff. Thank you very much. So listen, to open up the panel discussion this morning, Gorana, I'd like to ask you, what have been the big changes that you've seen in the workplace over the last 6 to 9 months as we've lived through this sort of crazy, challenging, interesting time, and particularly changes around how you're interacting with employees?
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Paul. Look, I mean, we found ourselves overnight, basically, in a very particular situation. And what I see as a patterns were focus and flexibility, in sense of focus of people that are usually very often working from home. In our cases, it was kind of divided. There were a part of our communities that were still delivering and providing services to our customer, to our clients, and in the production sites as well. But there was also a group of people that were starting to work permanently, actually almost from home. So it was required flexibility from the leaders to be able to change the focus, because the focus was sometimes not necessarily to what you see in front of you, but also to kind of learn how to stay close with the people, engage them, and actually to get the best out of the current environment, or even support the changes of their employees' environment so they can actually excel, learn, and be able to work to their maximum, to the maximum possibilities at a certain time. I also saw a lot of fear and frustration, unfortunately, and it also required from the leaders, in our case, coming from the top and then from all the levels in the organization, a clear messages that we are the community, we stay together, we are close here to our people, to our customers. So communication and dedication and focus of the leaders was what I see crucial, and the pattern in the last almost a year, almost the full year that we are in this situation.
Interesting. So focus and flexibility, dealing with fear and frustration. I like that. Very, very succinct indeed. And Tarek, at Legal and General, what are the big changes that you've been going through, again, particularly with how you've interacted with employees?
Yeah, I think we have quite a diverse workforce, very different job families, for everything from, construction in our factories through to office workers, accountancy, finance, all of those things. We've got loads of different job roles. So for us, we had a very flexible type of work arrangement. We have roles across the country. Our hubs are in Cardiff, in the Hove area, Birmingham, Leeds, etc. So we had a very flexible work arrangement already. Some roles were already work from home, for example. What we really found the changes were in our business processes, because what we found from an operational perspective is once we went fully remote, so to speak, some of our processes required manual intervention, required people in the office to do some work to get certain customer service, particularly our vulnerable customers. So it was very important for us to maintain that level of customer service. So the first thing that happened, in that period of time that we're in now, is how do we make sure we maintain that level of service for customers? So it was changing the model for customers, the contact centers. It was also looking at our business processes and reverting some manual processes into automated processes. So there was a bit of a change there in the way we do things, as well as what Gorana said there on the cultural side. We had a lot of cultural change as well. Suddenly everything becomes urgent. There's no way of prioritizing work. You're working pretty much sometimes in isolation, and doing that work, trying to find out what's going on across the business became a bit harder, but we managed to overcome those challenges, we'll see, with technology and using platforms like Live Tiles. That helps. So yeah, the biggest change for us is all around the process, I think.
I guess that pace of change was something quite accelerated to what you were normally used to.
Yeah, completely.
And Elaine, at Live Tiles, what have been the big changes that you've observed, both with the company and indeed with your broader customer community?
I'd agree with what Tarek and Joanna said there. I think around the communication, we definitely need to pivot and be much more deliberate in the area of compassionate communication. I think it has been, and continues to be, such a unsettling time, and I really felt that expectations towards leadership were that there needed to be a steady flow of communication, and that has morphed, evolved over time, Paul, so that the emphasis on communication needs to be there, needs to build trust, reinforce commitment, but now it needs to be deliberate, continual flow, but much more deliberate. And I would say as well, we talk about, how you need to, when there's a big change to an environment, how you need to hit the ground running. There's a term that I've become very, very aware of in recent months, and it's hit the ground listening. You have to listen so much more. You don't have the answers. Nobody came into this situation and said, yeah, I have the prescription to, this is the approach. It's, yes, there's typical change management, but you have to get really, really smart in terms of how you're listening and building out the plan.
Very good, and I like that idea of compassionate communication. And Gorana, not everyone is you know, able or are equipped to thrive in the digital workplace or in a more distributed way of working, a remote working model? What are the best practices that you're using and that you're observing in Coca-Cola Bottling Company, that you're dealing with, I think, some 28,000 employees? How are you managing that?
Look, Paul, it's a great question, and I fully resonate with it, especially what Elaine was saying about the communication and the focus on the leaders. So first of all, what we have done, it was clearly the empowerment of the leader in sense of empowering them to do what is best in the given situation related to engaging, motivating the teams in the countries. On the other side, you know, I read, for example, today that we cannot practice empathy if we don't believe people. So it is also about being trustful leader, in a way, servant leader, to stay close, listen to what is happening, but without the biases of comparing with your own situation. So if I'm feeling okay in this lockdown today, what we also notice happening, and in all different teams that I'm a member of or that I am leading, or talking with other colleagues, there was a big fluctuation of the feelings, the emotions. One day a person was okay, the next day was completely devastated, children are at home, any support available is somehow the support network is missing. So the leader was actually in the kind of epicenter. How will be the employee experience? And of course, employees need to take care and be responsible for their part of the game as well. What I can mention as a example is we kind of have a saying, is play hard, but also work hard, but also play hard. And it was in a way here visible because we celebrated birthdays together. We did a lot of things that are not professionally related only to our work that we do. We also encourage a lot of learning opportunities and provided those digital using the digital opportunities for our people. For example, I introduced a coffee corner for my team to just get together and not talk about business at all. Whatever is the topic, Netflix series, cooking, I don't know, whatever, problems or challenges with children, just to get a bit, stay connected, not to feel isolated, because this was, I believe, one of the biggest challenges is to feel isolated, and to kind of have, it's organized on Fridays at 4 o'clock. It's kind of permission to say, okay, the week is closed. It's still kind of working time, but we are already, you know, we also need to think about the recharging time. As a company also implemented the employee support system, etc., etc. This was also very active in this period. What I would like to say is that even if you are kind of people who are more used to the digital way of working, it is spread around, and there are articles about Zoom fatigue. So even if you are used to it, you kind of, there are moments that you are just overcharged, and you just need a kind of also take responsibility for your own well-being and say, okay, look, this is just enough, and I really need to get out of being online and recharge. So it's a lot of, again, fluidity, flexibility, and focus on the individual needs, and empowering leaders to act for what is the best at that specific moment and for that specific person or occasion.
So really focusing on the human dimension as well,
yes,
and the personalization, and shifting, I guess, a lot of activities that would have normally happened in the physical environment into
exactly.
the digital environment, and being really sensitive to that, and the need to continue that. At Legal and General, Tarek, you talked in the beginning there about, you know, one of the big challenges was the customer experience, but how about this employee experience that Gorana has been alluding to? Is that something that you've had to tackle and focus on in Legal and General?
Yes, very much so. I think, I mean, myself in a kind of digital product innovation role, innovation tends to work best when you're face to face, or you're riffing off people in a room and you're brainstorming ideas, and it is very difficult to then translate that when you're used to that way of working. So we had to work very hard early on to find mechanisms to get everyone to almost innovate virtually. So we used a lot of whiteboarding tools, set up various forums to ensure that we've got cross-functional groups happening virtually, and also making sure that we solve real problems still. Because what happens is essentially the pandemic hit us, all your priorities go out the window for that year. You have to reassess priorities, but let's focus on the things that really need to get done, because there's so much work that's going on, volumes go up, and a lot of it is not value add work. A lot of it is what we call thankless tasks, so high effort and low value, whereas what you want to really work on is those quick wins and those strategic projects. So it was getting everyone to think more agile, start to make the teams work in a very agile way. We have a lot of traditional teams as well as agile teams, so which we take for granted in the digital space. But when you're looking at a large legacy organization, almost established one, you have to take everyone on that journey from the beginning to say, well, work in small iterative sprints almost of work, try and make sure that everything you're doing is moving forward towards solving a problem. And in that way, you tend to move away from that fatigue that Garana mentioned there with the Zoom fatigue, or virtual fatigue. I think that was a very key thing for us on the innovation side. So what we also had to do is change our language style. So we had a very corporate parent-child relationship, where as a large employer in a financial services world, we would tell our employees what to do, or we'd write very large, heavy editorial style articles or news pieces, and we moved very much to a much more informal tone, very much supportive, paternalistic tone. And also it was two-way, so we were asking very regularly employees to feedback. We were asking almost conversational style communications, which is something we don't want to lose right now. That challenge to communicating with employees has actually improved for us. We've been able to have this two-way conversation, which is what we want to keep going forward.
That two-way dialogue, that's really, I think, a huge indicator of successful digital workplace then, and that's really happening organically. But all of that, I mean, the incredible story that you're sharing there about all of the innovation that's going on, and how you've really focused on delivering that sort of customer level experience to the employee as well, that employee experience. I imagine there's a lot of talent development and mentoring as well, which is needed there. And Elaine, I'm wondering if I can ask you, I mean, do you think it's possible to still nurture and develop talent and run with really good mentoring programs during, like when a workforce is distributed or working in a hybrid working model or fully working from home?
Yeah, to be honest, Paul, I actually think that it needs to be at the forefront of the minds of all leaders now. It's not something that should be sidelined. And if there's companies out there sidelining talent development, mentoring right now, I guarantee it'll be a catalyst for people moving away from them when they have the opportunity to do so. So it's an area that we just haven't pivot. And I think if anything, for CEOs, C-suite around the world right now, and let's be realistic here. We're in a situation where there's a lot of companies struggling with this pandemic. They've had to reorganize, reshape. They've lost some talent. They've got some smaller teams, and they're thinking about how they cope during the rest of this pandemic and in a post-pandemic world. And they know, and I think it's just been really, really driven home. It's been around, but not necessarily, served well to date across all organizations. But now it's reinforced that people are first, and investing in their success counts as number one, before strategy, before the numbers, etc. So definitely, I think that's a welcome shift, Paul. Regarding mentoring, I think we all reckon.
Sorry, can I ask, do you see any significant changes coming in that whole area, impacted by the experience with digital workplace taking on a much more key role in an area that might have been more typically dealt with in the office environment?
Yeah. One thing, and maybe to Joanna's point, and just to add to that, I do see maybe a couple of shifts, and I think there's going to be that increased focus on work-life skills. More and more, we know that we're beginning to see employees expect organizations to provide guidance to them, and be it like access to courses, content that doesn't necessarily directly apply to their position within the organization, but nonetheless makes them healthier, happier, and more content in their personal lives. And I think we all have read the studies and realize that companies will largely support this, because if employees, we know they're going to thrive, there's going to be maximum maximization of productivity when they lead happier lives. So I think that investment is something that you're going to see come more and more to the fore. And you can obviously see it happening, Joanna, in real life there, in her examples there. I like that cookie corner, by the way. I also think that you're going to see more and more of a trend towards attention management, as opposed to, people typically or traditionally would have talked about time management, task management. And this is where we're all having to multitask, deal with different distractions. Hey, at the very start of this call, I had a plumber here and there was a bit of drilling, so apologies for that. So in terms of that multitask and more distraction, that's constant shifting of work, demands for our times, interruptions, you result in having partially completed tasks left in its wake, and that I suppose that distraction leaves us exhausted. And I think we're going to have to spend more and more time humanizing that, making sure that we engage in a manner that we put tasks to the fore, and that we start to serve people well by saying, this is how we can help you prioritize. And I think tech is going to play an important role there in how you filter, target important work. That'll come much more to the fore. Just finally, Paul, on the piece, and we touched on communication quite a bit there. I would say traditionally it's sat with the role of potentially HR/people and culture, or maybe comms. I'm seeing the shift now where it's becoming important for everybody. All leaders are interested in it. So even for us, as we start working with existing and new clients, there's so much more buy-in, and more of the C-level and mid senior management are coming to the table. Everyone needs to be involved and wants to be involved and sees the importance of it. And employee engagement.
Definitely a common story we're seeing coming from all customers, that elevated importance of employee experience. Gorana, those issues of anxiety and distraction, and as Elaine said, that attention management, are there concrete examples of how you're dealing with this in Coca-Cola bottling, like with your large cohort of employees, some on factory floors, some in office, some working from home? Like, what are the tools you're using to help deal with it?
Yeah, one of I would say one of the tools, there are many tools, and one of the main leverage that we are using is empowering the leaders and providing the leader opportunities and possibilities to react depending on the situation. But one of the examples I would say is that we are using, we have a group of quite a large group of internal coaches and mentors, so that this is actually on a different levels in the organization. And that is, I would say, being an internal coach, it is quite utilized and quite helpful to, in a way, see that people are not alone feeling what they are feeling, and it's okay to be feeling like what is happening, to be vulnerable, to be just don't know what is going to, how to bridge over the day, or finally that I don't know, some hope appears that all the lockdowns and situations will be moving. Having this responsibility of usually being with the customers, with the clients. Now somehow we all need to do this in the digital way, which is a different way of working. It is something what we used to call maybe beginning of the year future of work. Now we are in the future of work. This is what the way I started to think about it. So I would say this, yes, wisdom of the group and power of the group and how to help each other, but also having this one-to-one dedicated focus interaction with the coach, with the mentor, to feel more to have this safe space to share and to kind of encourage yourself to move forward and go through it. Because I think psychologically what is happening is a very difficult situation to live, and on top we need to deliver, we need to work, we are working, we are also having a different roles in our family setup. So we need to kind of say to ourselves, look, we are actually doing a fantastic job, each and every one of us.
So I'm hearing here in terms of, which is great, about reimagining the future of work. It's more human, it's more compassionate, it's putting people first. Tarek, is it possible to sustain corporate culture and employee communities without that physical interaction? Are we fooling ourselves?
Yeah, so to an extent, it's a double-edged sword, really. Obviously, you get the larger remit on in the virtual world with the virtual space, because you're obviously delocalized, decentralized, and you've got that great depth. You can probably attract talent from all over the world and really move away from being a city-centric, so to speak. But yes, the more you spread out, you lose your culture for sure. You probably get in a situation where you create micro-cultures, a lot of them, especially if you're in small sub-teams of 10 people, for example, and you only talk to those 10 people, you end up creating your own culture. So at Legal in General, we're very aware of that. And that's why for us, it's extremely important that we have a set of design principles and corporate and cultural principles almost that we abide by, but also it's a guideline for any process, whether it's running a meeting or whether it's setting up a new project, whether you're designing something new, an experience. We always keep to these core principles so that we're always keeping that corporate culture going. Another thing is really keen to express here is that when we move from a virtual first to kind of this hybrid model of working, it's really important to keep the cultural elements in the hybrid style of working as well. So, if you're in the office, for example, and we're creating virtual studios so that someone who's in the office can work with virtual employees as well, that needs to be fully branded, has the culture, the same setup as well in the way we operate in our behaviors. And that's really important. As you bring out all of this new tech, don't just launch tech into your workforce without having a strict way of doing it with your culture. It's really important to have those design principles in place.
Yeah, as our head of customer experience likes to say, it's not about people adopting tech, but the tech adopting people, right? It has to be really people first, human centric approach, and it's as much about change management as anything else. We're coming towards the end of this opening conversation of the Future of Work series, and it's been really interesting to listen to you all. And I'd just like to do a final round of questions with you. And Elaine, if I may start with you, like what for you are top of mind key learnings, key takeaways over the last 6 to 9 months that might reshape and help you, influence you and how you think about the future of work?
Sure. In terms of the takeaways, the way we touch there in terms of the culture, I think about the values quite a bit. So for organizations, and their potential is there to ensure that their values now sit and ride well throughout this period. And if they don't, they've got a problem, Paul, and they've got to ensure that communication is part of that. Being human, and that was something that resonated with us. It was one of our values, core values at Live Tiles, and we're ensuring that we bring that through and we tweak it where appropriate. I think understanding the values of your team members is highly critical, and seeing how they lie in and how they actually shift over time. Paul, so if it's a case that, you know, we talk about being human, engaging with and enhancing the employee experience, you've got to understand where your employees are at a moment in time and really understanding what their values are. One of the areas that, like, I personalize right now, and one of the tips that somebody talked to me about was asking what numbers are important to them right now, so to their team members. And it could be 3, as in the number of people in my family, or it could be, you know, thousands and thousands, as in the death toll and the pandemic, where they are at a moment in time, just to ensure that you're humanizing your communication and adapting accordingly. And if I was to, you know, talk about a takeaway, I would say, you know, embrace the opportunities that have come from the pandemic. You know, we said we're doing a great job. There's been tremendous strides taken, and I think that you just got to hone in on that, bring the best of it forward, so that we're much more connected on a human level as we push forward.
I like that. More human, more an opportunity to really evolve the culture.
Huge.
Absolutely. You know, really, Gorana, for you over the last 6 to 9 months, what have you learned that you'll be bringing to the world of employee experience and talent development?
Yeah, it's building up of what Elaine said, definitely is thoughts about adaptive leadership and flexibility. Also to, as a leaders and future leaders, or for all of the employees, how to imagine what the world can be, that maybe something what today is not, we can say, oh my God, this can be happening maybe somewhere, but I don't think this is the way we will be working, what maybe we were thinking just a year ago. Look at us now, it's our normal reality. So I would kind of underline adaptation, flexibility, building up your own, our own capabilities and capabilities of the organization. And at the end, echoing the words we were sharing about communication, human touch, bringing human back in HR, which is now also one of the often used sentences. I would underline that people choose and employees choose, and more. I mean, definitely. Also, I would say that employees will be judging kind of how did my organization react in this time of pandemic. Am I staying? Am I going? I can work here online, remotely. So it's really a big responsibility on each of us as a leaders, as employees, to embrace this uncertainty and be flexible to kind of adapt to what is happening.
Very good. I hear really there a very big focus on that empathetic leadership, that it's really an opportunity to connect with employees on a human level, and that's great to hear. Tarek, you work in digital experience. You're leading the whole digital experience. This must have been an incredibly busy time, but also like incredibly exciting time, if I can put it like that, for you. What have been the big sort of changes that will maybe reshape your thinking going forward for the future of work based on the last 12 months?
Yeah, I think for legal in general, there are 2 key themes we don't want to lose, and we're very hyper aware of it actually, that, you know, we've worked very well in the last 9 months, I would say, and we don't want to lose these key attributes. One of them is first that we're working more cross-functionally. We're essentially 5 or 6 separate businesses, but in this scenario, we've been working pretty much borderlessly. So we've been working across all of our business areas, whether it's the construction business or the retirements business, for example. We're all coming together, and that we need to keep that. Essentially, it's stopping us from duplicating work, and it's making us do more work horizontally across the business, which is key. And the second thing for us is the decision making. Essentially, we've moved away from that hierarchical decision making model where we were before COVID, and we're really making teams more autonomous now. So we're giving more trust to teams to say, you know, you can make decisions within this framework, you know, go ahead, be autonomous, be a bit courageous and make changes. And that's perfect for guys like myself in innovation, where we want people to have a toolkit to then go and innovate in their own areas. And we're becoming very comfortable with that, the test and learn. So we want to keep that going forward. If we go back to the offices, we still want decision making to rest at lower levels of the organization and not lose that trust in the test and learn process.
Fantastic. I think it's quite interesting that while technology has enabled a lot of this to meet a lot of these challenges over the last 9 months, it's very much a story about people and culture even, right? So that story there about your culture becoming more unified, stronger, which of course also has positive resonance then for the brand itself, and then that more human connection as well with employees. So that's been really, really great to hear that. Listen, it's been a fantastic discussion to kick off the Future of Work series. I'd love to leave with just to ask each of the panelists, starting with you, Elaine, if I may, for your wish for the future of work in one sentence.
Yeah, I think probably that we take this reset on board, we hone the values, we bring it forward to truly have a connected workforce in every sense of the word as we push forward.
Great stuff. Tariq?
I think the future workplace will have a deeper understanding of my individual skills and move away from these vertical careers, essentially creating career experiences where I bring real value to the company, regardless of my job role. Excellent.
And Gorana, I leave the last word to you.
Thank you very much. I see it like we all are kind of micro-entrepreneurs, that organizations are providing space and environment for all of us to do our best and to continuously grow.
Excellent. 3 wonderful wishes for the future of work. So I would please stay with us, because we will have questions and answers in the chat window, and I'm sure there'll be lots of questions based on this really interesting opening discussion for Future of Work series. So thank you all very much, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank
you very much.